A Treatise of Satan's Temptations. Part 2. By Richard Gilpin. A Discourse of the Malice, Power, Cruelty and Diligence of Satan. Of the various ways by which he hinders peace. 1. Way by discomposures of spirit. These discomposures explained, by showing, 1. What advantage he takes from our natural temper, and what tempers give him this advantage. And more. Chapter 6. Part 3. Lastly, an excess of pity multiplies wounds without cause. It hinders a man to be happy, so long as there are any that are miserable. He is always, in reference to his quiet, at the mercy of other men. The afflicted can torment him at a distance, and, by a kind of magic, make him feel the torments that are inflicted upon his image. Who can deny but that men that are ridden by such vexatious dispositions, must lead an unquiet life, and always be tossed with inward tempests? Especially 2. When we consider how fit the forementioned occasions are to draw out these humors, to their tumultuary extravagances. A lighted match and gunpowder are not more exactly suited, to raise a shaking blast, than those occasions and tempers are to breed an inward annoyance. Some of these humors are so troublesome, that rather than they will want work, they will fight with their own shadows, and, by perverseness of predicated fancy, will create their own troubles. And the best of them, which seem sometime to take truce and compose themselves to rest, while occasions are out of the way. Yet they are quickly awaken, like sleeping dogs that are roused with the least noise. What work, then, may we expect they will make when they are summoned, to give their appearance upon a solemn occasion? But 3. If we should deal by instances, and bring upon the stage the effects that have been brought forth, by these concurring causes, it will appear that they make disturbances in good earnest. Let us either view the furious fits that have been, like sudden flashes, soonest gone, or their more lasting impressions, and we shall find it true. As to violent fits raised by such occasions and dispositions, examples are infinite. What rages, outrages, madnesses, and extravagances have men run into? Some, upon provocations, have furiously acted savage cruelties, and for small matters have been carried to the most desperate revenges. Others have been brought to such violent commotions within themselves, that the frame of nature hath been thereby weakened and overthrown. As Scylla, who in a strong passion vomited choler till he died. Some in their fury, have acted that which hath been matter of sorrow to them all their days. But, omitting the examples of heathens and wicked men, let us consider the wonderful transports of holy men. Moses, a man eminent beyond comparison in meekness, was so astonished with a sudden surprise of trouble at the sight of the golden calf, that he threw down the tables of the law, and brake them. Some indeed observed from thence a significancy, of Israel's breaking the law and forfeiting God's protection as his peculiar people. But this is more to be ascribed to the designment of divine providence, that so ordered it, than to the intendment of Moses, who no doubt did not this from a sedate and calm deliberation, as purposing by this act to tell Israel so much. But was hurried by his grief, as not considering well what he did, to break them. Asa, a good man, when he was reproved by the prophet, instead of thankful acceptance of the reproof, grows angry, falls into a rage, and throws the prophet into prison. Elias, discomposed with Jezebel's persecution, desires that God would take away his life. Jonah, in his anger, falls out with God, and justifies it when he hath done. Surely such fits as these proceeded from great inward combustion. Would wise, sober, holy men have said or done such things if they had not been transported beyond themselves? And though in such cases the fits are soon over, yet we observe that some are apt to fall into such fits often, and are so easily irritated, that, like the epileptic person possessed by the devil, upon every occasion, they are by him, cast into the fire or into the water, Matthew 17:15, and by the frequent return of their distemper are never at rest. As to others, whose tempers are more apt to retain a troublesome impression, it is very obvious that their discomposures have as much in length and breadth as the other had in height. You may view Haman tormented under his secret discontent, which his pride and envy formed in him, for the want of Mordecai's obeisance. The king's favor, a great estate, high honor, and what else a man could wish to make him content, are all swallowed up in this gulf, and become nothing to him. You see Amnon, vexed and sick for his sister Tamar, waxing lean from day to day. You see Ahab, though a king, who had enough to satisfy his mind, in the same condition for Naboth's vineyard. If you say these were wicked men, who rid their lusts without a bridle, and use the spur, look then upon better men, and you will see too much. Rachel so grieves and mourns for want of children, that she prophets of her life inconsistent with her disappointment, "Give me children, else I die." Genesis 30:1. Hannah upon the same occasion weeps and eats not, and prays in the bitterness of her soul, and the abundance of her complaint and grief. Jeremiah, being pressed with discouragements from the contradiction of evil men, calls himself a man of strife and contention to the whole earth. Jeremiah 15:10. His sorrows thence arising, had so embittered his life, that he puts a woe upon his birth. "Woe is me, my mother, that thou hast borne me a man of strife." Paul had a noble courage under manifold afflictions. He could glory in the cross and rejoice in persecutions. Nevertheless the greatness of his work, the froward perverseness and unsteadiness of professors, which put him under fears, jealousies, and new travail, the miseries of Christians, and the care he had for the concerns of the gospel. 2 Corinthians 11:2. Galatians 5:19, which was a constant load upon his mind, his heart, like old Eli's, trembling still for the ark of God, made him complain as one worn out by the troubles of his heart. 2 Corinthians 11:27, in weariness and painfulness, in watchings often, in hunger and thirst, in fastings often, in cold and nakedness. Besides those things that are without, that which cometh upon me daily, the care of all the churches. Who is weak, and I am not weak? For the Jews he had great heaviness and continual sorrow in his heart. And for the Gentiles he had perpetual fears. Romans 9:2. Now though he had a great share of divine comforts intermixed, and a more than ordinary assistance of the Spirit, to keep him from sinful discomposure of spirit, at least to such a height as it ordinarily prevails upon others, yet was he very sensible of this burden, and doubtless the devil labored to improve these occasions, to weary out his strength. For by these and such like things, he frequently vexeth the righteous souls of the faithful ministers of the gospel from day to day, so that their hearts have no rest, and their hands grow often feeble, and they cry out, "Oh the burden! Oh the care!" Being ready to say, as Jeremiah, chapter 27, "O Lord, thou hast deceived me, and I was deceived, I am a derision daily, every one mocketh me." Thus say they, did we ever think to meet with such disappointments, such griefs, from the willfulness, pride, weakness, ignorance, pettishness, inconstancy, negligence, and scandals of friends? And such hatred, contradictions, scorns, and injuries from enemies? Were we free, what calling would we not rather choose? What place would we not rather go to, where we might spend the remainder of our days, in some rest and ease? Were it not better to work with our hands for a morsel of bread? For so might our sleep be sweet to us at night, and we should not see these sorrows. At this rate are good men sometime disturbed, and the anguish of their spirit makes their life a burden. 2. Yet is not this all the disturbance that the devil works upon our hearts by these things, though these are bad enough, but they have a tendency to further trouble. Discomposures of spirit, if they continue long, turn at last into troubles of conscience. Though there is no affinity betwixt simple discomposure of soul, and troubles of conscience in their own nature, the objects of the former being things external, no way relating to the soul's interest in God and salvation, which are the objects of the latter, yet, the effects produced by the prevalency of these disturbances, are a fit stock for the engrafting of doubts, and questionings about our spiritual condition. As Saul's father first troubled himself for the loss of his asses, and sent his son to seek them. But when he stayed long, he forgot his trouble, and took up a new grief for his son, whom he feared he had lost in pursuit of the asses. So is it sometime with men, who, after they have long vexed themselves for injuries or afflictions, etc., upon a serious consideration of the working and power of these passions, leave their former pursuit, and begin to bethink themselves in what a condition their souls are, that abound with so much murmuring, rage, pride, or impatience, and then the scene is altered, and they begin to fear they have lost their souls, and are now perplexed about their spiritual estate. Thanks.